the Ielts exam. It is your key to the gateway of many other countries. The International English Language Testing System is an exam to judge English language ability, and it's accepted by institutes of higher education and immigration by many different English speaking countries. And one of the biggest aspects of the IELTS test is your speaking ability. And we're talking about speaking. You know that every language has a different way of expressing things. People tend to use specific word combinations with an underlying meaning unfamiliar to various peoples. In English, such expressions are called idioms and phrases. And that's what we're going to touch on today, how to use idioms and phrases for the IELTS speaking test part. Now, if you're aiming for a higher band score in IELTS, you need to focus on improving your vocabulary and using idiomatic language effectively. Why? Because this is the speaking section of the IELTS exam, and it is evaluated based on your lexical resources. You must demonstrate your ability to use less common words and IELTS idioms to establish the proper placement and style. So how would one use idioms during a speaking test? More importantly, how do you practice idioms for the IELTS exam? Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you an in-depth guide on idioms to use for the IELTS speaking. In this video, I will discuss commonly used expressions and, of course, provide examples and tips to practice using them during the test. Now, how to use idioms during the speaking test. Often idioms help sum up a commonly encountered cultural experience. For instance, bite the bullet can refer to something terrible. Interestingly, though, phrases and idioms are distinct from their country of origin. You see, idioms used in Italy or Spain are completely different from those used in English-speaking countries. Now, let me tell you something. Regarding idioms for IELTS speaking, it's important to remember that they can add a touch of flair and personality to your language. But, and there's always a but, they should be used properly. Idioms and phrases with a figurative meaning that is completely different from the literal meaning of the words. So make sure you understand the context of the meaning of the idiom before you just use it, before you throw something out there, because it could cause a lot of problems for you. Now, let's talk about enhancing vocabulary. Yes, and enhancing vocabulary arises from the objective of the IELTS speaking test, which is to evaluate a non-native English speaker's language proficiency. Knowledge of culture slang, idioms, and phrases makes you sound better. However, one crucial point that you must remember regarding idioms and phrases is to use them right and at the right time. I'm going to give you guys a couple of pointers to help you out. These tips for incorporating phrases and idioms for IELTS speaking that you should attempt to establish during the speaking section. First, avoid overusage. The strategic use of idioms and phrases adds color to the sentences. However, overusing these phrases can feel tedious and confusing to the interviewer. So it would be best to use them wisely. Really important, avoid cliches. Certain idioms are so commonly used and have gained the cliche status. Relying on such phrases can indicate to the examiner that you're unprepared, as you could not display a diverse knowledge. So don't get caught in that trap. Be careful of the context. If you're uncertain about the context in which an idiom should be used, it is better to avoid using it to prevent any negative impact on your score. Really, if you're not sure, just don't use it. Really importantly, don't use irregular idioms too much. Yes. Avoid using too many irregular idioms because they could affect the clarity of your language. Instead, use simple, easy to understand language and commonly used idioms. This will go a long way with the examiner and it'll help you tremendously. Trying to use those big fancy words is not the way to go. The IELTS speaking test evaluates your language proficiency as a non native English speaker to achieve a higher score. It is crucial to have a good command of the English vocabulary, including idioms and phrases. These phrases can help you confidently assert your ideas and provide additional points that are related to the examples that will support your discussion. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll. See, that's an idiom right there. To roll means to start. Let's start with a basic one. In my opinion. In my opinion can be used to express your viewpoint on a particular topic or to introduce your thoughts and ideas confidently and assertively. Now you may say to yourself, this is so simple. No, it's perfect. In my opinion, this is a great idiom and it'll help you a lot. Also, in my opinion, learning a foreign language can help you understand different cultures. To put it simply, to put it simply is a phrase often used to introduce a simplified or abbreviated explanation of a complex idea. It's a way of summarizing something in a straightforward and easy to understand manner without using too much technical jargon or complicated language. Don't complicate it in the IELTS speaking test. Here's a good example. To put it simply, kindness is the virtue that should be practiced daily. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm concerned, is often used to introduce a personal opinion or a viewpoint on a topic. It is a way of confidently expressing your ideas. Here's a really good example. And again, it's just my opinion. Reading books is one of the most enriching activities one can engage in. Number 4, I'm going to talk about. Yes, this would help you a lot in the IELTS exam. This phrase indicates that you will discuss a topic or idea similarly to the previous speaker or writer. It can be used to emphasize agreement or to build upon a previous idea or argument. And these may sound simple, but they just go such a long way that you wouldn't believe it. Here's another example of it. I'm going to talk about the benefits of regular exercise, which is an important aspect of maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Number 5, it's worth mentioning. Yes, it's worth mentioning. This phrase is commonly used to introduce additional points or ideas related to the previous discussion. It's often used to highlight a point that may have been overlooked or to provide a perspective that complements the existing discussion. Yes, I'll give you guys a really good example, and the example is it's worth mentioning that practicing gratitude can significantly improve one's mental health. You see that? It's worth mentioning that practicing gratitude can significantly improve one's health. Number 6, let me give you an example. Yes, this phrase is often used to provide a specific and commonly used example that supports the point being made in the discussion. Let me give you an example of how to use idioms for IELTS speaking. For instance, to beat around the bush means to avoid discussing the main topic. See, I gave you an example. of the IELTS speaking parts. If my memory serves me well. Think about it. If my memory serves me well. This phrase can be helpful in your vocabulary during the IELTS speaking test. This can also be used when you rely on past experiences or memories to tell a story or provide an example. If my memory serves me well, the price of that car used to be less last year. If my memory serves me well, graduating from college was one of the most memorable events in my life. Now, these were some idioms I taught you, but how to practice idioms for the IELTS exam. Now, before incorporating idioms for IELTS speaking, you must know how to use these expressions in the proper context. You may have heard that idiomatic language will improve your IELTS score. However, this statement is incorrect because idioms are only sometimes appropriate in certain circumstances. So if you're confused about the proper use of idioms, you can practice these things I'm about to mention. 1. Accuracy. You see, accuracy is very important because idioms are fixed expressions, meaning one cannot alter the occurrence in a sentence. So even a tiny mistake can make a huge mistake and make the sentence sound awkward or even comical. For instance, you cannot use sling your hooks or I want to sling my hook. The proper idiom is sling one's hook. You understand that? Here are some common idioms that students can fail to put into a sentence accurately. Here's the wrong one. Talk to my hand. It's talk to the hand. Wrong. I'm on 9 clouds. Right. I'm on cloud 9, which means to feel fabulous. Let's keep going. He will pass with a flying color. No, he will pass with flying colors is the proper one. You see, these small mistakes can ruin your IELTS speaking score. Let's talk about suitability. Ask yourself, does the idiom suit the situation? Where are you going? One of the most significant issues with idioms for IELTS speaking is that you must thoroughly understand how and where they can be used and where you're going with them. You cannot use them everywhere in your sentence, hoping to score better. That's just not how it works, people. I'll give you an example. For instance, a few idioms depend on the circumstances and with whom you're talking. For example, to say, I'm sorry your dog kicked the bucket is just highly inappropriate. It doesn't make any sense. To kick the bucket means someone has died, but you wouldn't use it like that. Some idioms, though, are suitable in sarcastic situations. For example, like I mentioned before, sling your hook. A handful of idioms are not suitable for using during the interview. They sound better in informal situations. Look, here's how it is. Idioms should be added to a conversation naturally. You shouldn't try to force them in the sentence. Because more importantly, the examiner will evaluate your speaking skills by considering how well you pronounce and use these idioms. So you must use the idioms with all the features of fluent and connected speech. Listen, make sure you practice what I told you. People, the IELTS speaking part is super important, like the other 3 parts. But as a whole, you want to sound natural. People, I'm out. Take care.